How can parents and teachers alike help teenagers get these coping skills you just spoke of and provide the proper support to help them develop into healthy young adults?
It's very important that we start communicating with our children as soon as they're born. That we're asking children and teens what's happening in their lives. We're giving them support. We're showing them unconditional love. That it's not a case of, well, you got an A for a test. Yay, I love you. But if you got a C, then I'm cross with you. So we need to be starting those resilience kind of tools very young. But also, if you see a kid in need, whether it's a parent or as a teacher, get in and talk to that child. Find out what's wrong. Is there something going on? How do we get root of it? And let it there for support.
What would you recommend parents and teachers do if they do recognize that there may be a problem with a teenager, but that teenager doesn't want to talk?
Very often that will be the case where teenagers don't want to talk to especially their own parents or to teachers. I think it is important that the parent or teacher involved doesn't give up. Get a friend, get someone that your teen trusts, and try and almost get an intervention where you're sitting with people that this child does trust, will open to, and you know that you are seeing a problem, that you're worried about them, and you are there to help.
Okay, Janine, I want to talk about some of the causes. What are some of the causes for teen suicide?
I think first, before we even talk about causes, I want to mention that teen suicide is not a case of I want to die. It's a case of I can't live like this anymore. I don't see any other option. So very often, while we look at suicide as this person doesn't want to live anymore, it's really a case very often of I'm in so much pain, emotionally, physically, in my life, I don't know how to handle it, and death is the only way out that I'm seeing. So very often it's a culmination, and it can be something that seems quite small, of a teen who has suffered from depression, has maybe gone through a traumatic incident, has gone through a trauma in terms of schoolwork, maybe he's being bullied at school, and something happens, like a breakup of a relationship, and that's it. That's the cut point. I can't do this anymore. So there's very often things that go behind it. It's not just one incident.
Okay, and do you find some of these things you just mentioned lead to depression and anxiety, which then leads to these suicidal thoughts and thoughts about them not wanting to stay in life in their current situation?
Absolutely. Very much a vicious cycle of, things are going wrong. I don't feel like life is working. I'm getting more depressed. The more depressed I become, the less life seems like it's working. So there is definitely a vicious cycle. And part of what teachers and parents can do is actually stop that cycle and say, hang on, I'm seeing that things aren't working out as well as you'd like them to. I can see that you're not coping. How do we change that before it gets to a point where you are now suicidal? How do we get those coping skills in place and change the cycle?
Okay, what are some warning signs, I guess, parents and teachers can look out for to know if their student or child is experiencing depression or anxiety?
Very important warning sign is to look for any changes in behavior. So a child who's been very outgoing, very sociable, not wanting to be around people. And the opposite is true. A child who's been very quiet and is suddenly becoming quite a bully or quite aggressive or quite arrogant in what they're saying. All of those are concerning. A child who's changing their usual behavior, they're sleeping more, they're eating more or less, they're in circles. Things like, I hate my life, I don't want to be here anymore, the world is terrible, no one cares if I'm dead or alive. Those are things that we need to be taken seriously. And when it comes to teachers and parents, because they see it, but things like failing at school, missing classes, bunking school, withdrawing from soccer teams, things like that are all warning signs that need to be taken seriously.
It's great that you mentioned that because I think a lot of the time parents, teachers just see a lot of those behaviors as teens just being teens. So it really does sound like they need to take it more seriously. If a parent or teacher doesn't have the proper coping skills to deal with this behavior, what do you recommend they do?
I think for a lot of teachers, psychology and dealing with troubled teens is not really part of their studies and not part of their massive tool bag of things that they do. And it is important if a teacher sees a problem and gut reaction, something's wrong, isolate the child in a friendly environment, find out what's going on, and while they're there, call SADAG. Let us give the child advice, let us speak to the child, see what's happening, and give you as the teacher the skills to cope.